America wanted Canada to buy their fighter jets. Canada just walked away. $19 billion. 88 of the most advanced warplanes ever built. The largest weapons purchase Canada has ever considered from the United States. And then, without warning, Canada's political leaders stood up in their capital and said, "We're done. We'll look somewhere else." But this isn't just another political disagreement. There's something hidden inside these jets that changes everything. Something most people have never heard about. And once you understand it, you'll see exactly why Canada is backing away and why so many other countries are paying very close attention right now. These jets aren't just flying machines. They're computers with wings. 8 million lines of computer programming. Every weapon, every radar signal, every system that detects danger, every way the jet talks to other aircraft, all of it runs on software. And here's the part that matters. Only one country controls that software, not Canada, not the countries that buy these jets. America controls it all. Let me explain how this actually works. The jet needs something called mission data files. Think of these like instruction books for battle. They teach the jet how to recognize enemy weapons, how to fly through dangerous areas, how to block enemy signals during a fight. Now, here's what changes the entire situation. These instruction files are created by a small team of 90 people. They work at a military base in Florida. This team programs every single one of these jets around the world, every country, every mission, all controlled from American land. Without those updates from Florida, the jet can still start its engines. It can still take off and fly around, but it cannot fight against modern enemy systems. An $82 million war machine becomes completely useless in actual combat. Let that sink in for a moment. So here's the big question. Does any country operate these jets on their own? Yes, exactly one. Israel. Their version runs completely independent software. Israeli engineers write their own code, do their own repairs, control their own missions. Nobody in Florida tells Israel when or how to use their jets. Every single other country, Canada, Poland, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and 15 others, depends completely on that American team in Florida for software that actually works in combat. So when you hear that Canada is buying $19 billion worth of these jets, what that really means is Canada is paying $19 billion for aircraft they cannot fully control themselves. Jets where 90 people in another country decide if the software will work or not. Now, you might be asking, would America really use that control against a friendly country? Reports suggest they already have. A Canadian political leader spoke in Parliament earlier this month. He said, and these are his words, "This fear is real. Donald Trump did this to Ukraine. He threatened to stop sending parts for their fighter jets, and actually did stop sending them. He left Ukraine's Air Force stranded." America gave Ukraine weapons, then held the parts hostage during an actual war. Canada watched this happen. But here's what pushed Canada to this breaking point. Just 6 days before Canadian leaders stood up to challenge this deal, Trump made an announcement online. He said he was removing certification from all aircraft built in Canada. Commercial planes, regional jets, private aircraft. Then he threatened a 50% tax on every Canadian plane sold in America. The reason? A paperwork delay. Canada's safety regulators hadn't approved certain jets fast enough for his liking. That's all it took. Over 5,000 Canadian-made aircraft are flying in America right now, and sources indicate Trump threatened all of them over a simple safety review process. The Canadian leader said in Parliament, Canada cannot be left exposed to the unpredictable decisions of Trump or any future president who might refuse to send parts because of political disagreements. Read that last part again. Any future president. This isn't about one person. This is about a system where the country selling you weapons can cut you off whenever they want and just prove they would actually do it. That's not a partnership. That's a country trying to protect itself from a supplier who just became unreliable. So what's Canada looking at instead? A jet called the Gripen, made in Sweden, already proven in combat by other countries. And here's the difference that actually matters. No American software control. No team in Florida deciding updates. No need to ask Washington for permission to fly a combat mission. Canada would own and control its own jets completely. The Canadian leaders said it clearly. Buying these American jets will make us more tied to a superpower, not less. Then there's research that backs this up. A Canadian defense research group published findings this year. They discovered that America receives nearly 70% of all production contracts for these jets. 70%. Even though the program claims partner countries share benefits equally. Canada isn't just buying a fighter jet. It's buying dependence, $19 billion of dependence. And the supplier just showed publicly that this dependence can be used as a weapon at any time. A major political figure recently stood at an international economic meeting and said it's time for middle-sized countries to unite against what he called weaponized economic control. That's not just protest language, that's a strategy. And canceling this jet deal is the first real test of that strategy. But Canada isn't facing this alone. And this is where the situation becomes truly serious. Germany, the biggest economy in Europe, an ally that has worked with America for 80 years. Germany ordered 35 of these jets, over 8 billion euros. First delivery scheduled for next year. A highly respected former German diplomat, someone who spent decades building the relationship between Germany and America, spoke to Germany's largest newspaper. His exact words, "If we should worry that America would treat future German jets the way they're treating Ukraine now, then canceling the contract may need to be considered." Let that register. Contract cancellation, 8 billion euros, from someone who dedicated his entire career to the German-American alliance. Now think about the bigger picture. Analysts believe 650 of these jets will be operating in Europe by 2035. Hundreds of billions in contracts, spare parts, training, repairs, strategic influence that took 80 years to build. Research institutes have found that 55% of all European weapons imports now come from the United States. That's up from 35% just 5 years ago. For decades, countries bought American weapons because America was reliable, steady, a partner you could trust for 30 years of parts and support without worrying about political games. That's what changed. Not the technology, the trust. 15 nations currently fly these jets. 15 nations just watched America threaten Canada with aircraft taxes. Watched America stop sending parts to Ukraine. Watched an American president talk about taking over the neighbor he shares military systems with. If Canada cancels, Germany gets political cover to do the same. If Germany cancels, Italy starts watching closely. So does Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Finland, Norway, the Czech Republic, all of them watching and all of them asking the same question. What happens when the country selling you weapons becomes the problem? Here's the part that makes all of this lasting. Angry social media posts fade away. Elections change leaders. Political situations shift. Defense partnerships don't. When a country buys fighter jets, that decision locks in for 30 to 40 years. Pilot training programs, repair facilities, weapons systems, supply networks, entire military strategies built around one aircraft. If Canada switches to the Swedish jet, Swedish engineers train Canadian pilots. Swedish factories supply Canadian parts. Swedish systems connect to Canadian defense networks. For 40 years, America is removed from that relationship permanently. If Germany cancels, 8 billion euros moves to European jet programs, European factories, European jobs, European independence. That money never comes back to American companies. And we know this isn't just theory. We have evidence. In 2019, 2019, Turkey bought missile systems from Russia. America immediately kicked Turkey out of the jet program entirely. No jets, no parts, no access. 7 years later, Turkey still hasn't returned. The relationship never recovered. The European Union just committed $162 billion in defense spending, European missiles, European drones, European cyber systems, not because European weapons are superior, because European weapons don't come with political strings attached. Defense partnerships, once broken, don't rebuild easily. Supply chains, once redirected, don't return. Trust, once lost, doesn't come back with an election. Allies aren't walking away from American defense because they want to. They're walking away because they feel they have no other choice. For 80 years, the Western alliance functioned. Not perfectly, but it functioned. Countries traded, shared intelligence, trained together, trusted each other with their most sensitive military secrets. Canada was at the heart of it. Fought in every conflict, shared every defense system, opened every border, earned its place not with money, with sacrifice. Over 1,300 of these jets fly today. 27 countries. More than 1 million flight hours, the largest fighter program ever created, built on trust. And now sources suggest the country that built it is threatening its own customers. Canada's top Air Force officer told Parliament these jets are the only aircraft that can counter threats from Russia and China. She's likely correct. But the argument against buying them isn't about military capability. It's about independence. Whether a country should hand over its national defense to a partner that has shown repeatedly that partnership comes with demands. My assessment? Canada won't cancel the contract this year. The current leadership needs American cooperation on too many other issues. The diplomatic cost right now is too high. But watch what happens quietly. Smaller defense contracts with non-American partners, joint development projects with other countries, the kind of quiet shift that signals the beginning of a major change. And watch Germany closely. If those diplomatic warnings become actual policy, if Berlin activates those contract exit clauses, Canada will have all the political cover it needs, and it will follow. We've documented this pattern in trade agreements, allies calling China more reliable than America. We've documented it in energy deals, trillion-dollar partnerships walking away. Now we're watching it happen in defense contracts. The pattern repeats, country by country, contract by contract. The question is no longer whether Canada can defend itself without American jets. The question is whether any ally can afford to stay dependent on a country that treats its partners this way. What happens next? Stay tuned. We'll keep following every move.